Hey everyone,
It's Chad Church,
and Nikolai Phelan.
and we are excited to bring to you our brand new podcast,
Hullabaloo. A cross-generational
media consumption podcast
where two gay men
from different generations
watch movies,
read books
listen to music, and more,
to bridge Gen X.
and Gen Z. I thought that was pretty good.
Let's do another take.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Hullabaloo. I am Nikolai Phelan, and this is...
Chad Church, at your service.
And this is a really exciting episode. This is our Madonna episode. It's going to be a two-part episode where we review Confessions from the Dance Floor 1 and Confessions 2.
Yeah, I think really on this, you may be taking the lead a little bit. I think you're maybe more familiar with her book of music as a whole. So, I want to be clear about that because I have not been a Madonna listener in all these years. I mean, I've heard her on many occasions, obviously. I mean, we watched her come out from, the beginning on MTV.
Right.
And stuff. So, obviously the familiarity's there, but I want to be clear that I'm not the music professional on that. I mean, you have more familiarity with music.
We'll get into that as we reach our kind of headlining part of the episode. But I was really curious, since this is kind of the catch up section and we haven't had the chance to catch up. It's been kind of, I would say for me at least, I was watching some astrology videos and it said because we've been in a Mercury retrograde for the past 3 weeks, and they were basically during this Mercury retrograde specifically, it was going to be really putting pressure on partnerships. And I was yeah, I felt that.
Please explain.
Well, I mean, I do feel the fog is lifting. Do you feel that? Because it was heavy, was it not?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the things that part of creating this venue here is that, we are undeniably from two different generations who have experienced different generational occurrences and just, our upbringing. So
right.
What is inherent in this exchange is that we're always going to be coming from different places, not necessarily different sides, but just different places.
Totally.
Of what we understand for us and what has been our, milieu, if you will, as we've grown up,
Totally.
So,
yeah, I think
that's the thing.
I was actually talking to somebody about this today, where I was saying one of the things that has been difficult for me is the moments when we go into conflict, when we've gone into conflict over differing views, differing opinions, etc. I always have to remind myself that it's an inherent aspect of the project, that it's inherently a part of the promise of the project, that us wanting to build a bridge through two generations is also being brave enough to figure out a way there, which means acknowledging that you're starting from really different places. And I don't know about you, but do you ever, for me personally, there have been moments where I felt confused or ashamed. Maybe not fully ashamed, because shame is not really my natural inclination, but there is moments of doubt where I'm going, is it normal that we're getting into these arguments? Me and you as friends, because we were all, so much of this is related to the podcast now. It's Chad and Nico, our friendship sometimes goes to the back burner because it's right?
production.
It's production. And so we're always it's do, and it's exhausting, and we're all trying to figure things out, and we're all fighting for something that's good. And frankly, praying that people care.
Absolutely.
And that's like a lot of, it requires a lot of faith. And of course, it requires a lot of patience. But also part of that is these questions of like, we didn't have to do this when we were just homies. We didn't have to do this when we were just writing partners. And it's hard for me sometimes because I don't like it. You know, I don't like the fighting.
It's something that I think, Nico, that it's something that I come into this positioning, I feel anyway, with the history and the experience of having had to work with other people who were friends at this kind of pace a number of times. And it's, for me, I try to compartmentalize what is going on in the moment with, frankly, most things that I do. And certainly when I'm dealing with something that's more of a, and I hate to put it this way because it really kind of smudges things, but more of a business engagement, right? Because they are two very different things. And we hope that in that process, you keep that friendship part alive. I mean, it's very, I mean, you look at when we look at Lena Dunham there, and the situation or the experience that she had with her partner, right? And they were
Right.
of two different ages. And so these are some inherent things that are going to come about, I think, but I don't ever at any point where, you use the word conflict, and I don't know that I really look at it as conflict anymore. I really do look at things when people are not seeing eye to eye is just really being on two separate sides of the room. And what is important is when we don't, you and or I, when we don't like fold our arms up and go to the other side and just, stand there, heel dug in, not gonna
Right.
do this. So that, we all,
Lean in. Lean
yeah.
in is what I think. Brene Brown says that, like, she goes, in those moments of discomfort, it's so important to lean in, that that the urge is going to be to step out, and instead you have to go against that energetic current and actually lean in. But the reason I use the word going into conflict is because there's a really interesting thing that happened when I was going into conflict, quote unquote. This is a professional term that my mom would use as as somebody who was executive coach, right? And so she'd say there's like this X and Y axis, and I wish she'll send it to me so she can show me again. But it was brilliant. I still think she should do a TED talk about it because I think more people need to know. But what she showed me was that on one side you have like somebody's essential commitment to their idea, and then like, how much do they personally care about this thing? And how much are they willing to give away? Right. And so when you have somebody who has like a lot of power in the situation and they're really passionate about a thing and they don't want to give anything away, then basically you might have an imbalance where that person may lord their power over the other person and get their way. The problem with that, she says, is like over time, that all that does is not only does it breed resentment, but it destroys any foundation for creation. She's like, the two, like that. She's like, then there's two. Then the other option is if a person secedes, like gives it, just says, fuck it, you can take it, you want it, it's your way. But if people do that, she said, listen, this is actually almost just as toxic. It poisons the water too. If you really care, you have to go into conflict. If you really care, it's better for us both to pick up our swords and push against each other and then figure it out than it is to go, that's fine. You want it your way. I'm going to give it to you.
Well, it's spurs resentment when that happens.
Exactly. It poisons the well. Because then that person, it's impossible to tally that.
Speaking of the well, is the black guy's drinking his Kool-Aid.
What does that have to do with the well?
It's cool. So there's a thing about black folk drinking Kool-Aid out there, and It's
Mm-hmm.
not Kool-Aid, it's Crystal Light.
Oh, okay.
But, drinking something, water, liquid.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Yes.
didn't mean
Okay.
to interrupt. That was.
No. Well, its point is to finish it up. So what she said is right. So like one is a person takes it basically that poisons the well, that
Mm-hmm.
poisons the water of the partnership. The other is the person gives it away, that breeds resentment. The
Mm-hmm.
two best options are collaboration and what's the other one? Oh, it's the one where it's not concession, but it's like it's essentially when both people have to give something up,
Yeah, yeah.
which is, it starts with the C as well.
Negotiation. We in real estate, when there's a problem with a transaction, we have it's like a negotiator that speaks for both sides.
Yeah, it's,
Like if this were an A,
to,
B, or C, I'd be like, C.
exactly. I know it's like when two parties is called conflict resolution. Let's look at conflict resolution. I'm going to find the word. I know it. So one of resolution, like techniques, let's see. Conflict resolution technique. Compromise. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is it. So competing. So one is avoiding, which is like, here's what she said. This was like really big. So she said, avoiding is only good if it's temporary. So she was like, at that time when I was in conflict with my other partner, I was like, I actually am so overwhelmed and so upset. I can't speak right now. And so she was like, you're allowed to avoid, but you have to put a clock on it. You don't want to leave that person in strife. You don't want them to be overly stressed and anxious, etc. That's an abuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to put a clock on it, assure them that you're going to come back, and then you need to come back and come either with compromise, or the other option is collaboration. And so real collaboration, is two people sitting at the table together and going, this is what I care about. And the other person going, this is what I care about. And then them being like, how can we make this a win-win for us both? And you come up, and it takes a lot of negotiation and back and forth and communication. Compromise is a lose-lose.
Mm-hmm.
Both people have to give things up. And so nobody's really happy, but ultimately nobody leaves resenting.
What's funny, you say that. When I think of compromise, I have a kind of a industry description of how I see, like, when people are negotiating through a sale transaction of a house. I always tell my clients that, and people in general, even speaking with other agents, I'll say, well, the thing is here that at the end of the day, any good negotiations finds both people walking away. That is, again, now I get to just, it's going to ping over here no matter what I do. Anyway, in good negotiations, what happens is that both parties walk away a little butthurt. And that's how
Right.
you know you really found the middle ground.
Right. What she showed me is that, like, that understanding conflict is understanding that there's always a cost. That believing that, okay, I'm fighting for this thing, or I'm pushing back against this thing, or this matters to me, is, and going, I wish I could just let this go. Is there something wrong with me? Is not like, it actually is. Even if you were to try to convince yourself of what isn't the truth, then you're still not doing yourself a service, because it will pay against you in the long run. It creates resentment. So it was a really interesting and compelling point. And I think understanding that about the conflict resolution and the desire for collaboration, being like, okay, in the future, we end up in a position where we're like where we were at with the censorship thing. And it's like, how do we detach ourselves from our emotional realities and instead come to the table with whatever our thing that we believe is, but we're bringing it almost like we're the lawyer for a client. You know what I mean? With that sense of detachment and then a desire to find a collaboration. And instead of being like trying to see everything through a certain paradigm where we're looking at one another or looking at each other and going like, can't you see that this means this and this means that? It's like everybody's story. Like they're gonna miss the emotional reality of your world because that's layered on a history of experiences.
Well, and I think that what we did in this instance when we decided, when we were working through the censorship element of things is I think we did find that middle. I mean, obviously we're here today. We did find that middle ground through collaboration. And yeah, I 1,000, I got the hiccups. 1,000% think that's where it's at.
Yeah. I went to a festival though, by the way, this weekend called Whole Festival, which is really crazy. It is a queer festival in Berlin. It was amazing, but it's super Berlin is how I describe it. Like Berlin has this thing about the way that its energy is. And when I've met more people, I've started to realize what makes Berlin so special. And it's that everybody's very open and that the parties feel like house parties where everybody's kind of invited.
Nice.
So like the best Berlin parties have this sense of like, we're all here and we're all having a good time. And you can kind of connect with anybody and chat. And there's this, it's not that it's necessarily warm, but it's just like, we're all here, we're all here and that's enough. People don't care about jobs as much here. Someone said something to me that I thought was really interesting, which they said in New York, the question is, what do you do? And in Berlin, the question is, what do you like? Or what are you into?
Nice.
Which is interesting because I mean, it is a very sexual city, and it's very like, kinky. It's a very kinky city. That's where all of the like fetish festivals and stuff happen here. But I thought, oh, that's so interesting because that really does sum it up,
That I have for years, I mean, decades even, me asking somebody what they do, I save that for the parties with the assholes. Because they're the only ones that are really interested in knowing. But my answer to that question is typically, so what's your story?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I mean, that allows
what's your story?
A bunch of different,
That snaps to that. I love that. What's your story? This is true.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I love that. What's your story? This is a total solution because when I ask people, what do they do? Oftentimes I kind of am trying to figure out a better way of being like, what do you do? Not what is your job? What do you do? How are you filling your life? But if you ask, how are you filling your life? People are going to,
Yeah. Right.
So
I think intellectuals will be like, well, let me tell you,
absolutely. I mean, some will, but some will also be off put. And there's this inherent like sizing up. But for me, like when people ask me, like, what do you do? Like, I'm often not answering like, what is how am I paying my bills? It's like, who am I? Is the question that I'm answering because I'm like, that's the truth. Like everything else is ancillary. I'm hustling so I can be that. And I am that. And I am who I say I am. But yeah, whole festival, like what's super crazy is at the end of the festival, there's an OY in the showers.
Wow.
And this is a tradition.
Wow.
In the festival. Yeah. And so, but the problem was when I was there, I believe firmly that for ORGYs, the way it works is like this: strong door policy. And then once you're in, anything goes. And then, but what I find, and I've experienced this in other places, is especially in the gay community, certain gays, mostly white ones that look like me, especially the muscle gaze, are too addicted to the power trip of being able to reject many people and establish themselves in a hierarchy that they don't even realize. They're so used to this specific high of being better than those that they don't even know how much actually more joyous it is when everybody's open and free. Felt like there was an opportunity for sense of openness that became kind of like quite toxic because all of these like New York and like other gays who aren't from Berlin, who had that sense of openness, weren't there. So they brought their ideas and their kind of hierarchical thinking into that space. And it's like they took it over. And for many years, people have told me, they go, the big issue with whole is just that the muscle gaze take it over, right? And in many years when I lived in Barcelona, the muscle gaze are the primary scene, right? And so your only chance at like really like getting to good parties or anything is to like kind of acclimate to that culture. But when I came to Berlin, it's much more queer, which means the trans girls are there, the gay guys are there, the twinks are there, the black gays are there, like people from like the Asians, the whites, you know what I mean? Everybody from all different like walks of life, different body types, bears, like it's all in this space together and everybody's invited.
Kind of a cultural kaleidoscope.
Totally. But people don't know that because they don't know how to come into a space and acknowledge or see what's already there without bringing their garbage and demanding that it be the norm. And up to that point, for the most part, the festival was very, very open, but just in that specific space, it like tilted into toxicity. And I was it was interesting and it gave me something to think about, you know?
I have never been involved in anything like that, so I'm out of lane to even really comment on it. I don't know. I mean, I probably would be like, that was such a great festival. Okay, I gotta go. Everybody, ciao. Have a good night. You know,
you're on your car ride home and you're like, and people are texting you, telling you like, hey, did you go to blank, blank, blank? And you're like, there was a blank, blank.
Yeah. You know, I haven't been looking to explore to that level, but I know that it's out there and I know that, you know, everybody has their different stuff. And as long as everybody is in agreement with what they're doing, I'm like, you know, do you boo, you know? I mean, that's how I see that.
Well, that's the thing about Berlin is that it's truly like a place of exploration. It's a place where people explore parts of themselves, discover who they are, discover what they like, and try things that they wouldn't try other places because there's an inherent lack of judgment to Berlin. And if you come with a judgmental energy, you become tangential. Like if you can come in and be like, oh, this is what it is. This is what it is. Like I'm not an inherently judgmental person, you know? In fact, the only time I turn to judgment is I will be observe. And then if somebody like really like sideswipes me or does some nasty stuff, it's like a switch will get pulled and then all of my observations can turn to judgment in a single second. But for the most part, I'm always just kind of neutral. And so it helps if you travel a lot. I think in order to be somebody that can go into lots of different cultures, lots of different rooms, lots of different cities and be able to acclimate and be one, you can't be too attached to any of your preconceived notions. You really have to show up as at least partially blank canvas in order to be able to like let the city color whoever you need to be in order to fit in.
Well, see,
or to move.
Yeah, what I guess, you know, the kickback that you might get from me being older, a little more set in my ways, is that now at this point in my life, you know, hey, do I, you know, I just realized, oh, I actually like avocado, which, you know, I'm open to, you know, trying different things again of different sorts and stuff. But there's some things where I'm just like, my heel is in the sand on this. For me, that's where I land. And I think that, again, we're dealing with age and history and how people, kind of develop over time. Many times, I wouldn't even just say like, from a, more, more sexual endeavors. I would say even just there are, I kind of have a three strikes you're out rule that I hardly ever really, enact or engage with when people have done me wrong in friendships.
Totally.
Because what I've learned over time is that this works out this way multiple times or has. And so
Right.
I know if you're lying to me, that it needs, like, lying to me that's a tough one, because that might not even be three strikes. I had a really long-term friend who I cared about dearly, dearly, dearly. I taught him a lot about real estate, and he lied to me about something one time, and and that involved me, and that was coming off of another friend who is a dear, dear friend, kind of, you say a forever friend, but things changed in any relationship. But coming off of that, I kind of finally came to understand when someone's consistently lying to you,
Yeah.
then they gotta
Uh,
go, you know?
lying to me is a weird one because I think the thing about lying is I would say for me, it's a 2-strike rule with lying too. And I think it's because very rarely have I found myself lying except for like in moments where I behaved in ways where I didn't even have an explanation. Like I went outside of my own norm and then I was like, oh, I don't know how to answer for this. Like, or I was like, it was like a crush, or I was like making out with somebody. I didn't want to tell them, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But even in those moments, I'm like, yeah, like the me after I had like lied to them, and it's like, you didn't need to do that. You just thought you were protecting them from something, but it's still so bizarre and wrong and strange that you're like, the idea of doing that multiple times is like, in order to be in a space where you're comfortably lying, you are lying about a lot. I think lying probably about a lot of things.
Well, that's what these people who look at the president of the United States. They become comfortable, like it's not even, it doesn't rank as a lie to them. It's just kind of how they operate. And that's when things, I think, are most dangerous for anybody who is engaged with them, because it inevitably, a lie is going to come out,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, hey, if somebody looks like hot hell and they think they're, looking ravishing, I might say something like, wow, you look stunning, and I don't really think of that as a lie,
You're
but
like, because in some world, I could believe that.
yeah.
You're like, I forgot to mention you look stunning in my mind's eye when my eyes are closed, but, it was there. It was present. It was implied.
Right. I heard that moons ago from this really, I'll say upper crusty, but I can't stand that terminology for anybody, because people who think that they are, above the grade there with, their, my husband's a lawyer or doctor or whatever, it's just disgusting to me. I mean, I grew up in a nice area where there were some, I would say moderately wealthy people whom you always knew when it was, you know, a, a social climber. They had to point out what was up. But, people who actually, came from money or were moneyed didn't act that way. But this woman who was a little, highbrow, she thought, that expects herself to be, said to this girl who came into our office, another agent one time, in like close to nothing, but was all dolled up with makeup everywhere. She was just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You look stunning. And I just like literally went to go.
She looks bad.
Yeah,
She
I
looks
mean,
bad.
because it was clear that this woman was not saying it nicely, but the woman who she was saying it to thought it was like, I mean, she probably moved on with her day thinking like, so and so said I was stunning, and like completely right over the head,
Right over her head. So something happened to me while we were at Hull. I was with my friend Alice, right? She's a trans girl, and Alice is so funny. And so Alice, one of the days she wore like, I guess it was like a ski mask, and her outfit was like bralette, skirt, ski mask, and she had like a wig underneath the ski mask. And so she's posting these videos in the ski mask. I'm like crying, laughing because I'm like, she looks so insane. And she goes, nobody's interesting anymore. And I was like, she looks so crazy. And so at the end of the festival, I bump into her. And she's holding a little speaker next to her ear and clearly slightly inebriated. And she's playing music to listen to it while she's walking home. And we had shared a campsite. So we're walking together. And this other DJ, famous DJ, comes up. And she looks at Alice and she goes, hey, could I play a song? And Alice, holding this speaker, goes, no. And I go, and like, literally, I burst out laughing because it was so deadpan. She said, no. And then this other DJ looks at her and goes, you're going to regret this. She like starts to threaten her, and this girl's friends, like this DJ's friends, grab her and go, come here, come on. They like take her away. Like they had to like, I was like, I don't know if she's getting in fights with everybody. I don't know what was going on, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I felt so bad because as soon as she said no, I went, because it was just so like, in my head, I would have never said no to somebody like that. I think I would have probably just been like, sure, what's the song, Yeah. But then when I asked Alice, she was like, it's my speaker. And I was like, fair. That's a good point. She's like, it's my speaker. I'm going to play this song. She goes, and then what? I don't know her. She's not going to stand next to us for a while. Like we're walking back to the camp. And I go, yeah, logistically, that makes a lot of sense. Like from like a bigger perspective, it did make more sense, but I just couldn't imagine just deadpan saying like to say no, period, as a full sentence. It was so fierce. I loved it.
Well, that's like that woman, the designer woman there, Vogue or whatever, like Anna Winter, right? Like,
yeah,
no, I mean, whatever.
It was so fierce.
That's
no.
funny.
And she goes, you're going to regret this. Like immediately, like goes into threats. She's like, I'm going to get you. And I was like, whoa, it was crazy.
That's
okay. So
like the Flintstone flutter for me, like,
yeah, straight up. You're getting out of there. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so
speaking of getting out of there, place, my week was interesting. The end of last week. It was finally, after what has been a year that was supposed to be on the long end, like 3 months of putting together this purchase of this villa in Italy, I got a unexpected call from the owner of the auction company that I went through. And my phone is like pinging at like, 6 a.m. on WhatsApp, and I'm just like, my God. And I'm thinking like, that our team is at work or whatever. And I, I just let it go and like rolled back over and had passed out on the Barker lounge or recliner or whatever, when I went to bed that night. So I hadn't actually gone to bed. Long story boring though, is that I ended up, then the phone rings. And I'm like, oh my God. So I took the phone, and it turns out to be the owner of the auction company. And he's like, Richard, you must listen. The judge has ruled. And I'm just like, So this is going to be my day. I'm going to wake up to some more bullshit in Italy, and I'm not ready for that. So I'm just in that yeah mode. And he's like, the lawyer and I did not expect this, but the judge has ruled it, and it's not in my behalf for this last lawsuit. It was in behalf of the court delegate, who is the one that manages putting the properties into the auction and manages the properties as the people are in them. And he says, the judge has ruled on the eviction of the current owner, so to speak, although my money has already purchased the property, and they are to be evicted with immediacy in Italy, which means they have 60 days to get out of the house. And then if they do not, then they have another 60 more days before the police actively remove them from the property. And so with that eviction was holding up the judge from signing the deed. Like the judge had signed the deed, but apparently there's a transfer document that they sign after that transfers the ownership of the property to me. And so now I fully own my villa in Italy. And I found out it is instead of a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, it is a 5-bedroom, 4-bath. And there's like a little office or something as well in there. And so I'm told that by November, my birthday effectively, I should have the keys to my villa. So that's my big win of the week, is that
Okay, this is amazing news.
2027 before I get the property.
Oh, this is awesome news. I'm so happy to hear this.
Yeah.
This is amazing news.
I'm really excited. I'm also very nervous because I spent some money on an investment that I made to kind of guarantee that I would have more money coming in on a regular basis. And so like I'm down a bunch of money that would have been going towards, how many times do I have to fly back and forth to Italy? What am I, fixing first in the property and so forth. But I have the feeling everything works out for a reason. And this other investment is going to actually justify me further than, well, I bought a house here for my visa. It's going to be like, and instead of like where I work on commission, instead of me kind of, well, here are my tax returns and it shows that I make this much money, my W-4s or W-4s or I-9s or whatever the hell they are.
Whatever.
They now I'll be able to say, no, this comes in every month. And, whether you want to consider me a pensioner or a working person with income from the States, consider me whatever you want, make it that 7% interest or that tax rate, and let's get my damn residency. So that's another nice element to that as well. So it's
awesome. I'm going to move us on to the next segment because we're a little bit over. But yeah, by a little bit, I mean a lot. But I mean, this is our longer episode, so I think it's fierce that we had like the kind of the room to expand. So I want to go into Hullabaloo recommendations. Do you have any recommendations this week?
My recommendation I did on the other day in the car, and I can't think of off the top of my head who it was. I've been listening to I've never done the satellite radio thing, and so Sirius now is in my car, and it was for some music that came across. I listened to a station called Chill, and it's kind of downbeat music that is like that's my groove, my jam. So I guess the recommendation that I would make is more,
Yeah, down tempo and deep house.
yeah,
You're liking deep house music. I didn't know that you liked house.
oh, I love that, like, kind of Cafe Del Mar, like, chilling, the cheers are blowing in the wind, and people are just kind of cocktailing around. Love that shit. That is my jam. So I guess downbeat house music is my recommendation for you. You know,
Down Chad's recommendation is everybody should get into some down tempo and house music.
yeah.
Speaking of, okay, so for my recommendation, what do I want to, I'm going to recommend this DJ, Juliana Huxtable. So Juliana Huxtable, I saw her perform at Whole Festival. She was amazing. I also saw her in like, one of the, more like a adult play tent areas afterwards, the pack, but we were all just kind of hanging out. But I spoke with her afterwards and I asked her how her set went. And I think that Juliana is very interesting because she is a trans DJ who has like a really experimental approach to music, and it's also very hardcore. And I think that what's really interesting about Juliana is that when you think about DJs like Honey Dijon, right? Honey Dijon to me is the sound of New York. And whenever Honey Dijon returns to New York and she plays New York, there's this feeling of New York returning to itself. And the thing about Juliana Huxtable is her energy as a DJ feels to me very much like Berlin. That a person does not have to be from the place to be so aligned or such a pure expression of the best of a place. That because Honey Dijon is from Chicago, but in a weird way, I would call her the sound of New York. And so Juliana Huxtable is very similar. And so when I seen her at Whole Festival, many people have said that that's like one of the most unmissable sets of the festival every year. And it did not disappoint. I had heard one of her sets years ago on her SoundCloud, and I think it was called the German Visa Pipeline or something like that. And it gets super intense, and then it goes into this like really happy, sexy, and then it goes to other places, and it's such a roller coaster. But I just really appreciate the experimentalism and the boldness and audacity that she brings to that specific space. And it really stands out, and it continues to. And she's a polarizing figure. Some people like her sets, some people do not. But I'm one of the people that really appreciates it because I really like when people are willing to create something that's never been made before.
I think that may be a nice segue into our confessions on the dance floor first.
Yes, let's do confessions from the dance floor first. So let's talk about the first album. So this is our Hullabaloo headliner. It's two. We're going to talk about Confessions 1, and then we're going to talk about Confessions 2. So here's what I'm going to say about Confessions 1. My memory of Confessions 1 is it has a nostalgic value to me because the first time I heard Confessions 1, I was living in New York, and it was late at night, and I was getting a snack at like 2 a.m. I had left my apartment. I'm living in Manhattan. I'm living in a literal closet in Manhattan. And it's Murray Hill, 33rd and 3rd. I'm walking around the street. I'm trying to get a snack. I go into this place, and I'm listening to this album. And I remember it was like, I knew that even though I had all these problems, because at that time I had so many problems, like it was like, how am I going to make rent? How am I going to make money? What am I going to do? Am I going to get my medication? Am I going to be good enough? And I'm going to end up in the homeless shelter again. Like these were all things in my mind. And yet at the same time, there would be these moments of cinematic clarity. And this was one of them. And so I really love Hung Up. I love Hung Up. I like Jump. There's a lot of singles on this album that I appreciate. But when I return to the album as a cohesive whole, it doesn't fully land for me. I think there's a certain aspect of it where it feels like it suffers from the early 2000s issue of everybody was creating banger, banger, banger singles, and there would be filler songs on the CD because radio was so dominant. And so albums as an art form were not in their perfect heyday at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not that I don't think it's a good album. I do think it's a good album, but it feels like it's the highest highs, and also it has some lows, and some of the lyrics are really stupid. And I forget, I think it's I Love New York, where she says, I think you think I'm a dork. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just some there's some real stinkers on this album too. And also I think from a sentimentality perspective, my experience of the album is less aligned with where I am. As fun and as awesome and as sexy as the album is, because it's really fierce, right? She's in her 40s. She's so hot. She comes out and she proves, like, you could do this. Nobody had ever done this like this before and come back stronger and been hotter and been cooler and created herself again like this. The only person who could do this is Madonna, right? It is an incredible era. It's Hung Up is one of the best songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's a lot of the songs are kind of about this being cheated on, about Guy Ritchie, about her marriage, like ending, like, you know, it's a lot of it is more of like, it's a bit of a breakup album. It's like a breakup and go be hot album, go be hot at 40 album, you know?
It's interesting. Because I guess you're leaning towards maybe the Confessions too is being, you know, maybe more, we'll get to that, but I probably had the reverse response to that. And I'm, you know, admittedly I don't follow her. You know, my experience with Madonna in general was that we, myself and people of my age were growing up, certainly in my hometown. She came out and I think it was like a virgin. And I mean, people's parents were just like, yeah, bring that into our home and you are going to be staying in our home for the next 4 weeks, you know? And I think that what Madonna has done well in her life has been that controversial edge that went down a line that, you know, wasn't necessarily accepted the way that she is maybe accepted more so now. You know, again, I'm more that downbeat chill guy, but out of that Confessions one, you know, so, you know, the way I was seeing my job here, my experience here was to, you know, find some things that you can speak well of about these albums. And so my picks for her songs, my likes, were Get It Together and Future Lives Have a Vibe or Has a Vibe, and then Forbidden Love.
Wow.
Those were the ones that I
oh my God.
landed. And you're like, that's the shit I thought sucked, bro.
No, these are so almost like rarities of picks from this album, because none of those are the music video tracks. None of those are the singles that were released. None of those are even things people remember her from. But that's very fascinating. Those are, I think, some of the more emotional songs on the album for sure, though.
My thing with Madonna is, so I honestly, I don't have a place to put her outside of you know, my respect for the woman for what she's created, but I feel like so much of what she's created is, you know, her vibe that, you know, I am Madonna, and has done a great job of the marketing of herself as, you know, the rule breaker. And I like, for the same way that I might look at Britney Spears is kind of how I look at her. She's like, it's pop music because it's popular music with a grouping of people at a certain time. Whereas, you know, when you throw the Beatles at me, or you throw even, you know, the Doobie Brothers or something, like, for me, there's more of something more to engage with other than kind of what I might call more candy pop. And then also that um, let me shake things up with what I do and the lyrics in the songs. But this, for me, I felt that was more Madonna, in line with the Madonna I came to
Yes,
understand than
but
the new album.
here's what I'm going to say. So yes, I would say that Confessions 1 is more aligned with a very specific kind of Madonna. It is the Like a Virgin Madonna. It's the Like a Prayer Madonna. It's the singles Madonna. It's the bombastic big Madonna. It's ego Madonna. Confessions 2, I actually think is more aligned, has almost nothing to do with Confessions 1, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that even though we're comparing the two, it's actually an opportunity to create that like more distinct dichotomy. Confessions 2 is closer to me to erotica and Ray of Light and even bedtime stories, which were more down tempo and they're more cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
In Confessions 1 to me is not, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like each song is a song. It's like, we're over here, we're over there, we're over here. This is that. This is this. Like you're certainly you're experiencing a journey, but it doesn't, there's no sense of fluidity. It's ping pong in many times. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like each song is its own room that you're walking into that has its own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very Madonna of her. And it's big, it's bombastic, it's fun, it's danceable. What is Confessions 2? Confessions 2 is, I think, what's most compelling about Confessions 2 is that I think the second half of the album is fantastic, which she only released singles from the first half. So like the first track, Bring Your Love, right? I found that boring. I don't love that track. Is that one of your favorites?
What did I say I liked? This is where I liked the first and the second songs, and the third, the one I think I said I liked the best was One Step Away.
Okay, One Step Away. Interesting. What about Danceteria? That's like her best single she's released in probably 10 years.
That's on the list here.
That song is amazing. Personally, I'm like, whether you like it or not, I'm like, it's what's really interesting, as I will say about Confessions 2, is she made a single that was fucking danceable, but then she also created something that is incredibly pleasant to listen to. Confessions 2 to me is something that I could see myself playing in the background and not thinking about it. Like it's fluid, it's cohesive, the song to song to song all exists as a part of the same world. And it's the commitment to that sonic world that supersedes the bombastic big singles.
And I hear you there, because as I listened to it, one of the things that I was like, oh, this is like, electronica Madonna, and so more of her coming out, as a clubby Madonna, and so I
not coming out,
or being
returning.
Okay, fair enough. Returning to more of a clubby Madonna, and like so. But it's so different for me because when I was back at the raves in the 1990s and stuff, it wasn't about a Madonna. It was about like Daft Punk. It was about, Robert Miles. It was, more just kind of like, you are here. You're probably going to be pretty high.
Yeah.
And this is like some good tunes that get you kind of bobbing and, and so forth. I think, I have a real hard time connecting her music to what I would see is dance. So it felt really like this felt more mechanical, although I will say that I felt like I could hear a maturity in her voice that she would fucking have to have by now.
Well, the other thing that's really beautiful is I will say that like all of Madonna's interviews around this, and she's had some really spiritual ones. And that's the other thing is that Madonna in her Ray of Light era was really spiritual. That's when she discovered Kabbalah. And so there was this transcension of self and this introduction of one of the most ego driven, like pop stars or ego forward pop stars, we'll say. You can't describe somebody's drive, but I suspect. And that there was suddenly this idea of like the existing outside of the self, thinking of giving things up to something bigger, connecting to more spiritual ideas and powers. And as she did an interview with Jay Shetty, and she was talking about that, and it's like, she is really mature. She's come around. And I believe, from my own personal belief, I think the reason she did come back to this, where she did experience this and was able to create this, is because she was able to reconnect with the muses, which I believe, I've always believed this, and I'll always cite my examples, but I believe that if you get too involved with your ego and you convince yourself that all the art you made, it was just you, the muses stop helping you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the fairies, the art fairies, the art angels stop bringing you the resources, the ideas, the inspiration that really takes things to the next level.
Well, and wasn't she inspired a bit by the same producer cat that was on Confessions on the Dance Floor there? Like,
no,
so,
he created both.
Yeah.
So they reconnected and they rebuilt and they did it again. And it's like, that's a really beautiful thing. And I think she had two flops, I think MDMA didn't go so well. And I know that Madam X, her other album, didn't go so well. And I remember it was so crazy. I was in a gay bar when Madam X came out, and this gay guy just said, he goes, it seems like it's this Madonna just keeps changing her appearance, and she's not putting out any good music. And it almost seems like the best thing she could do is like, instead of like just getting older and continuing to fail, she could just die in a car crash.
Wow.
And he's like, I know. Well, this is something he said. I remember saying, like, why would you say that? I looked at him and I go, why would you say that?
Mm.
And I was so like shocked by it. And he just said, well, it would be more in line with her history. He said she could figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think she could figure it out. And he's like, I think that her time has passed. And I think that the thing that's most powerful and profound is to think about people who loved you at one point. That's somebody who probably really loved her, was a big fan,
mm-hmm.
who became embittered and pissed off and whatever, thinking and saying things like that, and still being like, I can do this. The amount of will, the amount of courage, the amount of faith that is required to do that,
mm-hmm.
to reinvent the self again.
I think that, one thing that she does well is this reinvention game that she plays. I look at her, like, I think that her concerts are probably better taken than necessarily her music, because I mean, she's a spectacle. She puts on a show, and I think that good for her. I mean, I'll give her huge props for what she has created for herself, but I tend to look at her from the perspective is she a legend, or is she a myth at some level? And again, it's all in who you like in your music, and for any of us. And I think that she's more of a show, and I think that's why she can draw these huge audiences to her shows.
I think that if she's an artist,
well,
and
clearly
well, of course, but I mean, like, we know she's not a vocalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's clear. But more than anything, what she'll call herself is a visionary,
mm-hmm.
And to be a visionary is a very particular thing, right? The word itself sounds really like, holier than thou, but because it sounds like, to be a seer or something, like you have visions, but it's really about being able to spend enough time in one's imagination to understand a thing and see it, and then take it down from the ether into the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the vehicle in which Madonna does that is through the reinvention of self.
Mm-hmm.
She requires a reimagining of herself in order to liberate herself from either her past mistakes or past creations.
Mm-hmm.
It's how she unhooks herself from the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a process that we've all gotten so used to that it's almost commonplace to us now. Like, we take for granted how unique it is that she's so consistent in this, and how so many other artists do the same thing now, but it's almost in line with a certain tradition, the Madonna tradition, to be a Madonna-like artist, than it is, I think, an actual expression of that artist's necessary truth. They just create eras, they rebuild themselves, and it becomes about the marketing. And the thing about it is, you talked about how she's marketed well, and I think the actual truth is that Madonna's process naturally aligned with marketing. She says, like, it has to be about the art. I can't worry about the numbers. I can't think about those things. I must be about creating the best thing possible.
Well, she's in an incredible position to do that, right? I mean, she's filthy rich, and so it really doesn't matter if the number to her, the numbers. This is how she's, portraying herself as this artist, or sees herself, or has manifested herself as this artist. And so what a great place for her to be in, where she doesn't have to look at what the marketability of what she's putting out there is. I'm sure, and from what I've engaged with, it seems like this is like, her opus coming back into the scene here. And so, I mean, like, good for her for being that authentic and true to her own self in this,
Right.
and I think it's great that she's got so many people who are committed to her and following her through, the different manifestations of herself that she's put together. Hats off. Hats off.
Well, I think
It's a
the way it works, for sure. But I think the thing that I will say about Madonna is this. I think that those people that are committed, are all these quote unquote people committed, are cursorily committed. They are like, let me check in to see, is she back? That's it.
Mhm.
And when she showed up at Coachella it came up with this track, and it was catchy, and it was like, okay, there's something here. And then it said it was Confessions 2. Now, why did they call it Confessions 2? Even though it has more to do with those other albums, I think, is because it represents something similar. Confessions 1 was this like make it or break it moment after essentially a really big flop out, like an album that did not do well. And this sense that they had put like a kind of a clock on her head to say, like, she's run out of time. Finally, the ding dong, the witch is dead. Mm-hmm. We can bring our younger pop stars in, and she's gone. Mm-hmm. Right? And so Confessions became this thing where she showed up and showed once again that, like, she had the ability, the creative genius to show up in a way that was, like, not only believable, but that worked with who she was. Mm-hmm. Confessions 2 leaned on the nostalgic factor of Confessions 1 in order to get people to listen. But then it re-exists as more of like this document and an expression of a lot of different ideas and truth. Like, the second half of the album, she gets into her own doubts about being about running out of time, about getting older. Lower East Side Girl. Oh my God, that song's so beautiful and sad. It makes me, the first time I heard it, like it's the final track on the album, right? And I remember it made me cry because it has this guitar sample that is just instantly evocative.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also this idea of like, here she is looking on her life. This very well may be her last good, like her last big hit. This could be it. And she got that. She got that one last hurrah, potentially. Not to say she won't make more albums, not to say, but maybe she won't. We don't know. At this point, no one knows. She had a couple years ago, she almost died.
Yeah, that viral infection or something.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so there's this idea of like that girl who was hustling, who was in the Lower East Side, who didn't know if any of this was going to come together. Like, I'm still her, and I do it for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and I think that's why people want to celebrate it. There's this feeling of like, you can't remove this album from the context of the artist because it's inherently embedded in the history. It is as much a text and a retrospective, and it is understood in a canon of her work as it is something that stands alone. And that's not to say it can't stand alone. I think it does, but that's why it's good. Is it perfect? No, but Madonna's never really made a perfect album. Mm-hmm. That's not her style. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She was always much more committed in being interesting than being perfect.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement there. I think that because again, I see her as a performer, and in my eyes, I you'll probably want to open my neck up with a knife or something, but the like Katy Perry, if I would go to a Katy Perry concert first.
Really?
Yeah, because it's that I see them both as pop musicians or singers, acts, and I feel that like a Katy Perry is more pop, and well, all due respect to her, she's a performer, but I think that she gets to ride on a lot of that, and
I disagree. I think that this is somebody who has had so much flung at them, who has had to sustain so much vitriol and abuse, and has had her image criticized for 40, 50 years, who has, and I think calling somebody a performer to me it's reductive because she's a performance artist, right? A performer to me is a dancer. And Madonna's not a dancer. Like she dances, but she is a creative director. She is a visionary. She's like, not only is she performing, but she's performing in the context of something. She's not just like, able to do good dance moves, which I would say is more of like a performer, right? Like she absolutely is a performer, but the only thing I say she isn't is a vocalist. But, you know, she's been like, to create an era, to create a whole vision of a world. Like she created the erotic book. Do you know about that?
I vaguely remember this. I don't, the specifics never.
So she created this like coffee table book where I think she shot everything with Stephen Meisel, I believe. And it's really like, it's like almost nude, sexual, like beautiful erotic images of her and men. And like at one point it's like her dressed and a bunch of naked men on like dog leashes. And it's crazy. Like it's very provocative, but it's imagery that you've never seen before. There's no performance there. There's no impetus to create that unless you're an artist, you know? And I think you said she was an artist, but I think for me, I've never seen Katy Perry do anything outside of, singing that remotely suggested that she had a powerful creative point of view. Whereas
I think her stuff is actually like written for her. She pick a song and then she goes with
exactly
it, and it hits the top 10 or whatever. And
now she can't. Now she's everything she does is she's really struggling, right? But I would say, like, with the thing about it is that Madonna went through the same thing as currently Katy Perry's going through. But the reason I think Madonna was able to transcend was because when Madonna was making mistakes, they were her mistakes. And so when you're the person and it's your vision and it's not working, you can change that vision. But if you're always just trying to select a person to create the thing for you, you are always gambling. It's like putting money into a random stock and hoping you get rich. It's like, if you have to be a curator, you have to be able to understand and have a really strong sense of taste, which of course Madonna does too, because of who she collaborates with. But yeah, I mean, she did that tour, and I think like a couple of years ago, and it looked amazing, and even with her limited, I assume, vocal range, she was still performing for 2.5 hours. And it's like, that is, and with an incredible stage design setup and sense of world building. And for me, I'll always be appreciative and understand that, like, her life is her art. Her being able to do this at this era in that kind of space, which nobody has ever done. Nobody has ever done what she just did. Right? Bring to have a #1 album at her age with her record from that, like, of course nobody can match her standpoint, but nobody even in a similar tier, right? It is a part of a history of perseverance and resilience that is inherent to the truth of her character and is an essential part of her legacy.
Here. Well, I think people should tell us what they think,
Yeah, I would love to hear people's perspective. Which album did you prefer? Confessions 1 or Confessions 2? And also tell us your thoughts about Madonna. And if you've met Madonna, let us know.
Yeah, right. Like, if I mean her now, she'd probably be like not particularly friendly with me. But I mean, I would hope that she would understand that it's different strokes for different folks. I mean, that's life in its entirety. Some people drive, Kias, and some people drive Rolls Royces, and it's about what one wants. And some people who are very wealthy drive Kias. It's about what somebody's particular preference is. And I think we're all open to have our own preferences and desires and things we like and things we don't. But I would say, from a perspective of the 2 albums, again, I was the Confessions.
Wait, let's just also let people know that we're about to do ratings, just so everyone knows, because we're gonna move into the rating segment. Sorry. Okay, continue.
As a rating, I gotta say Confessions 1, because again, it at least gave me more of what I know of her. And then for the Confessions 2, I mean, I'm not smacking down either of these albums. My feeling about it is it's just a different genre than I enjoy. And I think with music, you've got to enjoy it to embrace it, And so with the second one, I just felt like, okay, so this is more of a pop electronica album, and I kind of felt like she was going more into the mainstream with this album, trying to, be relevant to what's going on now. Just my feelings, my opinions. So I'm gonna give, and then we've got, I get to rate her now, right? So
Yeah.
I take into account that for these albums and this creative process that she goes through, she has got to be a producer. She has got to be a marketer, and she is, an artist coming up with these ideas. So, a 4 out of 5, you're not going to like my scores, but hey, it is what it is. On the first album, I'll give her for the where they ranked and stuff, I'd give her probably a 4. And on the second, the new album, kind of going with a 3.5.
That's fair. I think those are fair ratings. I'm almost the reverse. I would give, so for me, I think I expected Confessions 1 to hit more for me, and I found it to be personally not aligned with wherever I am currently. Like it was a bit of a tedium. Like I wasn't enjoying myself listening to it. I was like, okay, I'm showing up for this. I'm doing it. I would give it a 3.7 out of 5. It has high highs. For me, it has some lows. There's some real stinkers on Confessions 1. Confessions 2, I'm going to give it a 4. Again, I don't think it's a perfect album. But I really appreciated the second half of the album. There's still some stuff that's worth skipping, but I really appreciated it as a cohesive whole. And I found it very engaging, and I'm proud of Madge, I'm proud of Madonna. I'm proud of her. I'm proud for her. I think it's deserving. And it's awesome to know she still got it and that she's still kicking. I think she's, I don't know if she's 70 or almost 70, but that's like fierce, that's, it's awesome. So these aren't like perfect 10 albums for me, but I think, yeah. Confessions 1, I like the singles, the stuff in between. To me, this feels like filler. Confessions 2, I just was an overall stronger listening experience.
There you go. Well, there we go. I guess we have reviewed a little Madonna. Do you want to share where we're going next with our review?
Our next episode will be Famous It by Lena Dunham. Sorry.
I enjoyed that experience of growth with Lena.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking forward to that. Once again, as always, subscribe, please rate our podcast. We need ratings. It helps legitimize us in the algorithm. Thank you all once again, and let us know how you feel about these Madonna albums. Peace out from us to you.
Here at Hullabaloo. Love you.
Love you. Bye.